Good day and welcome to our watercolor journey. Today we're going to do this spontaneous loose painting. I will show you a few tips and techniques on how to create this and how to resolve some issues if you find them in your painting. The materials I used are shown here, and I will also write it in the description. First of all, I used masking tape to preserve some of the white. I didn't want to go over masking fluid this time, and this makes it just easier to wet the paper. So the paper is really wet. I could probably have used a bigger brush, but I do not want to use a lot of materials today in this painting. I think next time I will definitely rather use the big brush for this initial wash that I want to do, and use an additional brush for the other effects that I want to create. As you can see, the paper, first of all, for one or other reason, is creating puddles, which I do not normally experience with this paper. I think definitely there is something to be said about temperatures and climate conditions when working with your watercolor and your paper. So I think it's always a good thing maybe just to test it beforehand and see what happens and act accordingly to it. You can see already there's some paint streaks there, at least. As I said, there's a few ways that we can resolve certain situations. So with this, I tilted the paper and just spread that paint around, just to make sure that I do not get watermarks or anything else that can create problems in the painting later on. You will see on the left side there in the sky, one of the areas already dried and it made a mark there. So I'm going to try and resolve it. I will show you how I do that. And this is also one of the reasons why I use this brush. Now, as you can see, I'm just splatting in some paint there that can diffuse into the background. And this will create nice soft edges. Sometimes it's really a good idea to use less brush marks and let the paint work spontaneously on your paper. As you can see in the foreground, once again, I'm bringing in quite a few darker values there, just to create distance between the foreground and the background. The paint is really diffusing beautifully on the paper and really spreading out. There I added a little bit more pigment, which you would not normally do, but I decided to see what it will create and if it will blend together. It would definitely be better to leave that area alone and let the painting dry and then go back and repaint. I sprinkled in a little bit of salt also for texture, and I'm also sprinkling in the trees. You can let your painting dry. The salt worked really well. I was a bit concerned because the paper was a bit wet, and when you work with wet paper it can just dissolve the salt, but at least it worked. You can see there in the top in the sky, it made a few marks that I really do not like. So I decided to go in again and wet that area and work with the sky again. And also I want to intensify the color, and also especially with the orange. I wanted that orange to go through into the left hand side of the sky. So now I go again and just fix that. At least as soon as you let your painting dry, you can go ahead and redo certain things, and it will make sure that all the other things that's not supposed to be there fixed up. I'm just tilting the paper a little bit so that the paint can spread a little bit more, and then I'm also spreading out those marks at the side to blend into the background. So, and I think I'm quite happy with the sky at the moment. So at least I've got that nice beautiful dark side on the left hand and the lighter side on the right hand side. So now it's about making marks. As you can see also in this, the white masking tape definitely created a lot of hard edges that you do not want. So now you can go in and paint around it and on top of it and just change the shapes to what you want. And you still have your lovely white preserved in your painting. So I'm fusing and blending those colors together, and the paint is also still quite wet, so they can flow and blend and create their own beautiful mixes. Painting dry. Everything is dry now, so now I'm just creating a little bit more detail and darker edges on the trees on the left hand side. I'm using the calligraphy brush. It's really a fabulous brush to have. It holds a lot of pigment and you can maneuver it in quite a few ways. It's one of those tools that I think you also need in your watercolor case. I have been privileged to have stayed in Korea for about 8 years, so I got my brushes that side and they are really good quality, and it wasn't expensive. That definitely helps. Also, I don't want those stark white marks to stay that way, so I'm starting to bring in paint, and now I'm creating a few little leaves on the tree on the right hand side. Just playing around and creating a few branches and the leaves and just having fun and just intensifying the values as I go along. The oranges and the browns always works well together, and for this case I'm going to say, because I'm used Paynes Grey Blue, it's not a actual blue, but at least it's very close to a blue, and blue and orange works wonders together and they stand out beautifully against each other. because as we know it's complementary colors, and complementary colors work in harmony together. But if you mix it together, you will get a brown color or a black color. Just creating branches and tree shapes and leaves, and playing around with the cooler colors against the warmer colors, and working with darker and darker values, because I want something to stop the painting on the right hand side, because you definitely need that stop point in your painting. One thing about spontaneous painting, you definitely have to have a basic idea of where you want to go. But if things do not work the way that you intended in the first place, look at what you've got and improvise and see what can you do to adjust and create more interest in your painting. I like the way that the colors fused, and there's a lot of interest in that. And remember, try to make connections between everything. As you can see there, once again, that calligraphy brush create beautiful dry brush effects, and it makes a beautiful canopy for those trees on the left hand side now. And we've got a full range of values in this painting. And remember, we worked with the salt. If there's places that has too much salt, you can paint over it and it will diffuse those areas, and just keep the areas that you want with the salt, because salt can be unpredictable, because the way that you sprinkle it, it goes all over, and sometimes it doesn't work exactly how you wanted it to. I'm just splatting in a little bit more of a Paynes grey, just to create a few more leaves and a little bit more texture. And we want a little bit of life, so adding a few birds in the sky, and try to keep the direction of the birds different, and that will also make it look more natural. It's always fun to do paintings like these. So look at where you need to intensify some colors, and as you can see there in that middle area, it almost created a negative painting where you see those grasses between the dark values and the lighter values in between it. And it's just a few little bushes and branches and things that you create in this now. And let's sign it, and I think we're done. I'm quite pleased with what we got. So please like, subscribe and comment for me. See you next time.